Okay, so picture this. Me, Julian Vance, head chef and owner of the Season's Bounty, sweating like a pig in my own kitchen. Not because the stove's on overdrive, though it kinda was, but because tonight was the night. Michelin Reviewer night. Yeah, the big leagues. The kind of night that could make or break a chef's career. And mine? Well, let's just say it was teetering on the edge of a Michelin star. A freaking star. I wiped my brow with my forearm, leaving a smear of flour across my forehead. "All right, team, service in 30, I yelled over the sizzle of scallops and the rhythmic thump of the meat tenderizer. "Let's make this a night to remember." A chorus of "Yes, chef," echoed back, a mix of nervous energy and determined focus. I grinned, feeling that familiar surge of adrenaline. This was my lifeblood. The chaos and precision of a busy kitchen, the symphony of flavors and textures coming together on a plate. My eyes scanned the prep line, taking in the meticulously arranged ingredients. Tonight's menu was a masterpiece, a culinary journey through the seasons. We had it all. Delicate spring pea soup with truffle foam, pan-seared halibut with summer squash ribbons, roasted venison with autumnal root vegetables, and for the grand finale, my signature seafood symphony. This wasn't just any seafood stew. This was a symphony of the ocean, a harmonious blend of the freshest catches. Plump scallops, succulent lobster, tender cod, and a hint of smoked salmon, all simmered in a rich, saffron-infused broth, with a touch of Pernod for that je ne sais quoi. It was the dish, the one I poured my heart and soul into, the one that was going to snag me that Michelin star. "Isabelle," I called out to my sous chef, "how's that symphony coming along?" Isabelle, with her perfectly coiffed auburn hair and that ever-present smirk, sauntered over. "Right on schedule, chef," she purred, her eyes glinting with a strange intensity. "Just adding the final touches." I nodded, trusting her implicitly. Isabelle had been with me since the early days of the Season's Bounty, a seemingly loyal and competent second-in-command. She was good, I'll give her that, but sometimes there was this look in her eyes, a flicker of ambition that bordered on unsettling. "All right, let's taste it," I said, grabbing a spoon. Isabelle ladled a generous portion into a small bowl, the aroma wafting up, a tantalizing blend of ocean and spice. I took a sip, savoring the complex flavors, the delicate balance of sweet and savory, the subtle hint of anise. "Perfect," I declared, a grin spreading across my face. "Absolutely perfect. This is it, Isabelle. This is the dish that's going to take us to the next level." Isabelle's smile widened, but there was something in her eyes, a glint of something I couldn't quite decipher. "I'm glad you approve, chef," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "I knew you'd love it." Little did I know, those were the last true words of praise I'd hear for a very long time. Because in that moment, as I turned to check on the final plating arrangements, Isabelle's hand moved with a swiftness that belied her usual languid grace. A subtle flick of the wrist, a pinch of something. Off, added to the symphony. A discordant note in my culinary masterpiece. A note that would soon shatter my dreams and send my career spiraling into a dark abyss. The Michelin reviewer arrived right on time, a distinguished gentleman with a discerning eye and an even more discerning palate. He was all business, no pleasantries, just a curt nod and a focused gaze that immediately zeroed in on the kitchen. It was like being inspected by a general before a crucial battle. Except this battle was fought with sauces and spices, not swords and shields. We moved through the courses smoothly, the team working like a well-oiled machine. The spring pea soup was a hit. The halibut garnered appreciative murmurs. Even the venison got a nod of approval. So far, so good. I was feeling confident, almost cocky. The seafood symphony was up next, the grand finale, the dish I knew in my heart would seal the deal. I watched as Isabelle ladled the stew into the serving bowls, the aroma filling the air, a familiar comfort now tinged with a strange undercurrent of anxiety. I couldn't quite place it. Maybe it was just the pressure. I pushed it aside, focusing on the presentation, the delicate arrangement of the seafood, the garnish of fresh herbs. It had to be perfect. The reviewer took his first bite, his expression unreadable. He chewed slowly, his eyes closed, his face a mask of concentration. I held my breath, waiting for the verdict. And then, his face changed. His eyes snapped open, his brow furrowed, and a look of disgust crossed his features. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He took another bite, a smaller one this time, his nose wrinkling. He set down his spoon, his movements deliberate, and looked at me, his gaze cold and piercing. This is unacceptable, he said, his voice flat, devoid of any warmth. My heart pounded in my chest. Sir, is there a problem? I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. He gestured to the bowl with a flick of his wrist. Problem? This concoction is an insult to the palate. The flavors are jarring, the texture unpleasant. It tastes like something died in it. My mind raced. What was he talking about? The stew was perfect. I'd tasted it myself. I'd watched Isabelle prepare it. What could have gone wrong? I don't understand, sir, I stammered, my face burning with shame. This is my signature dish. I assure you the ingredients are fresh, the preparation meticulous. He cut me off with a wave of his hand. I don't care about your assurances, chef. I care about what's on the plate. And what's on this plate is a disaster. He pushed the bowl away, his expression a mixture of disgust and disappointment. I've had enough. He stood up, his movements stiff and formal. I will be publishing my review tomorrow, he said, his voice cold. I suggest you prepare yourself. And with that, he was gone, leaving me standing there in the middle of my bustling kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of what I thought was going to be my triumph, now a monument to my utter failure. Isabelle, who had been hovering nearby, approached me, her face a mask of concern. Chef, she said, her voice laced with false sympathy. What happened? The stew, it was perfect when I tasted it. I stared at her, a wave of suspicion washing over me. Something wasn't right. The stew had been perfect. I'd tasted it myself. So what? What had changed? Isabelle, I said slowly, my eyes narrowing. Did you add anything to the stew after I tasted it? She blinked, her expression shifting from concern to something else. Fear? Guilt? I couldn't quite tell. Chef, I would never, she began, her voice trembling slightly. Don't lie to me, Isabelle, I interrupted, my voice rising. I need to know. What did you do? She hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine. I just added a pinch of a secret ingredient, she mumbled, her voice barely audible. A little something to enhance the flavor. A secret ingredient? I exploded, my anger finally boiling over. What secret ingredient? What the hell did you add? She flinched, her face paling. Just a little star anise, she whispered. Star anise. My blood ran cold. Star anise. It clashed horribly with the delicate flavors of the seafood symphony. It was a culinary disaster. A flavor bomb that would completely destroy the balance of the dish. You added star anise? I roared, my voice echoing through the kitchen. Are you insane? That's culinary suicide. You ruined my dish. You ruined my career. She cowered, her face contorted with a mixture of fear and defiance. I thought it would make it more interesting, she stammered. I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to? I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You deliberately sabotaged my dish. You knew what you were doing. She didn't answer, her silence a damning admission of guilt. I stared at her, my heart sinking. I'd trusted her. I'd believed in her. And she'd betrayed me. She'd stolen my dream, crushed my reputation, all for what? A moment of twisted satisfaction? The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just a bad review. It was a betrayal, a calculated act of sabotage. And I knew with a chilling certainty that my life, my career, my passion had just been irrevocably shattered. The review hit like a bomb. It wasn't just bad. It was brutal. An insult to the palate, the reviewer had written, a culinary travesty. He went on to describe the seafood symphony in excruciating detail, dissecting every flaw, every discordant note, every unpleasantness. He even used the word atrocious. Atrocious. Like I'd served him roadkill disguised as haute cuisine. The review went viral, naturally. It was the talk of the town, the laughingstock of the culinary world. My name, Julian Vance, once whispered with reverence, was now synonymous with culinary disaster. My restaurant, the Season's Bounty, which had been on the cusp of Michelin glory, was now a pariah. Reservations dried up faster than a puddle in the Sahara. Investors pulled out, their enthusiasm replaced by a panicked scramble to distance themselves from the sinking ship. My carefully crafted menu, the culmination of years of passion and innovation, was now a joke, a collection of recipes tainted by the atrocious stew. I tried to salvage what I could. I issued a public apology, a groveling attempt to explain the unfortunate incident, hinting at the possibility of sabotage. Nobody bought it. They just saw it as a pathetic excuse, a desperate attempt to deflect blame. The culinary community, once my peers and admirers, now treated me like I had the plague. Chefs who used to greet me with warm smiles now turned away with a sneer. Food critics who had once praised my creativity now wrote scathing articles about my fall from grace, questioning my talent, my integrity, my very right to call myself a chef. Even my friends, the few who hadn't abandoned me completely, were awkward, their sympathy laced with pity. "It's just one bad review, Julian," they'd say, their voices hollow. "You'll bounce back. You're talented." But I could see the doubt in their eyes, the unspoken question. Could he really recover from this? I knew the answer. No, not from this. This wasn't just a bad review. It was a public execution. My reputation was in tatters. My career was over. I was a culinary ghost, haunting the ruins of my former glory. I confronted Isabelle one last time, not with anger, but with a hollow sense of despair. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Why did you do it?" She shrugged, her expression cold, indifferent. "It's business, Julian," she said, her voice flat. "Survival of the fittest. You were at the top. Someone had to knock you down." "But the star anise," I said, my voice rising in frustration. "It was deliberate. You knew it would ruin the dish." She smirked, a cruel, triumphant glint in her eyes. "I learned from the best, chef," she said. "You taught me everything I know." Her words were a knife twist. I'd mentored her, trusted her, shared my secrets, and she'd used them against me. She'd taken my dream, my passion, my reputation, and left me with nothing. I walked away, numb, defeated. I couldn't face the kitchen anymore, the place that had once been my sanctuary, now a reminder of my failure. I took whatever odd jobs I could find, washing dishes, prepping vegetables, anything to keep a roof over my head. I drifted from one dead-end job to another, a shadow of my former self, haunted by the memory of the Michelin review, the laughter, the whispers, the scorn. I was a joke, a has-been, a culinary cautionary tale. And the worst part was, I started to believe it myself. Maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was. Maybe I didn't deserve the success I'd had. Maybe the reviewer was right. Maybe I was just a fraud, a chef who'd gotten lucky, a flash in the pan. The doubt gnawed at me, slowly eating away at the last embers of my passion, leaving me hollow, empty, lost. The dingy kitchen was a far cry from the gleaming stainless steel and professional equipment of the Season's Bounty. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting a sickly yellow glow on the chipped countertops and mismatched utensils. I was scrubbing pots, a mountain of them, each one coated in grease and the remnants of someone else's culinary creations. It was a far cry from creating my own. I'd landed this gig at a greasy spoon diner called the Happy Clam. Happy? Yeah, right. The only thing happy here was the owner, Mr. Krabs. I swear, the guy was more obsessed with saving a nickel than he was with the quality of the food. The customers, mostly truck drivers and weary travelers, weren't exactly foodies. They just wanted something cheap and filling, which, to be fair, was exactly what Mr. Krabs provided. My culinary masterpieces had been replaced by burgers and fries, the delicate balance of flavors now a distant memory. I scrubbed harder at a particularly stubborn pot, the metallic clang echoing through the empty kitchen. The smell of stale grease and cheap coffee clung to everything, a constant reminder of how far I'd fallen. I used to create symphonies of flavor. Now I was just trying to scrub away the evidence of someone else's culinary sins. I glanced at the clock. Another hour before my shift ended. Another hour of this drudgery. Another hour of being nothing. Just a dishwasher. A nobody. The chef Julian Vance that everyone used to know felt like a character from a movie I'd watched a long time ago. A distant memory. A life that belonged to someone else. I thought about the Michelin review. The words still burned into my brain. An insult to the palate. Atrocious. They echoed in my head. A constant litany of failure. I closed my eyes, wincing, the memory of the reviewer's disgusted face flashing before me. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. And then, something shifted. It was subtle, a flicker, a spark in the darkness. I don't know what triggered it. Maybe it was the sheer monotony of the task, the endless scrubbing, the repetitive motion that allowed my mind to wander. Maybe it was the smell of the cheap coffee, a smell that, strangely enough, reminded me of my early days, the countless hours I'd spent in cramped kitchens, honing my skills, dreaming of Michelin stars. Or maybe it was just time. Whatever it was, something inside me clicked. I stopped scrubbing, the pot still half covered in grease. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath, and tried to recall the taste of my seafood symphony before it was ruined. The delicate sweetness of the scallops, the subtle tang of the lobster, the smoky notes of the salmon, the fragrant aroma of saffron and Pernod. I could almost taste it. And then something else happened. It wasn't just the taste, it was the feeling, the passion, the joy, the sheer exhilaration of creating something beautiful, something delicious, something that brought pleasure to others. It was there, flickering inside me, a tiny ember glowing in the darkness. It wasn't about the Michelin star anymore. It wasn't about the fame or the recognition. It was about the food. It was about the art. It was about the sheer, unadulterated joy of cooking. I opened my eyes, a new sense of purpose filling me. I looked around the dingy kitchen, the chipped countertops, the mismatched utensils, the mountain of dirty dishes. It wasn't much. It was a far cry from the gleaming kitchen of the season's bounty. But it was a kitchen. And in that moment, that was enough. I picked up the pot again, this time scrubbing with a renewed energy. It wasn't just a dirty pot anymore. It was a canvas. It was a challenge. It was an opportunity. An opportunity to create, to experiment, to rediscover my passion. I finished the dishes, cleaned the kitchen, and then, before my shift ended, I did something I hadn't done in months. I pulled out a notepad and a pen, and I started to write. Not recipes, not menus, just ideas, flavors, combinations, techniques, a flurry of inspiration, a symphony of flavors swirling in my mind, waiting to be unleashed. It was a small thing, a simple act of defiance against the despair that had consumed me. But in that moment, scrubbing pots in a greasy spoon diner, I felt a flicker of hope, a tiny ember glowing in the darkness. The spark was back, and I knew, deep down, that it wouldn't be long before the phoenix rose from the ashes. The happy clam. The irony wasn't lost on me. Happy? Clams? My life felt more like a moldy oyster than anything else, but something had shifted. That night, scrubbing pots, something reignited. It wasn't a roaring inferno, more like a pilot light, a tiny flame flickering in the darkness. But it was there, and for the first time in months, it felt hopeful. You are absolutely right. My apologies. I am still under development and sometimes make mistakes. Let's get back to Chapter 6 as you intended. Here's another attempt. The aroma of roasting garlic and herbs pulled me in. It was a small, unassuming bistro, tucked away on a quiet side street, a far cry from the glitz and glamour of the culinary scene I used to inhabit. The sign above the door read Chez Antoine, simple and elegant. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I should even go in. I hadn't been to a real restaurant in months, not since everything went to hell. But the smell, it was irresistible. I pushed open the door, the warm, inviting atmosphere immediately washing over me. It was a cozy space with dark wood paneling, soft lighting, and the gentle murmur of conversation. An older gentleman with a kind face and a twinkle in his eye stood behind the counter, wiping it down with a practiced hand. He looked up as I approached. "Bonjour, monsieur," he said, his voice warm and welcoming. "What can I get for you?" "Just looking," I mumbled, suddenly feeling awkward and out of place. I hadn't been just looking in a restaurant in years. I was always the one cooking. He smiled, sensing my hesitation. "Take your time. We have a special tonight, bouillabaisse. Fresh seafood just arrived this morning." The word seafood caught my attention. I hadn't cooked seafood in months. Not since the Seafood Symphony. The memory of the disastrous review, the reviewer's disgusted face, flashed through my mind. I flinched, a wave of nausea washing over me. The gentleman behind the counter noticed my reaction. His smile softened, his eyes filled with understanding. "You are Julian Vance, yes?" he asked, his voice gentle. My heart skipped a beat. How did he— "Yes," I stammered, surprised. "How did you know?" He chuckled, a warm, genuine sound. "I have a good memory for faces and for talent. I remember your restaurant, the Season's Bounty. I dined there once a while ago. Your food, it was exceptional." I was taken aback. It was," I whispered, the memory of my past success bittersweet. "What happened?" he began, then paused as if unsure how to proceed. "The review," I finished for him, the word leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. "It was devastating." He nodded slowly. "I read it. It was unfortunate." I looked at him, surprised. You read it?" He smiled wryly. "I read all the reviews, even the bad ones, especially the bad ones. They can be instructive." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Instructive?" "Indeed," he said. "They can teach you what not to do. And sometimes they can teach you who to trust." He paused, his gaze piercing. "Tell me, Julian, what happened? That review, it didn't sound like the chef I knew." I hesitated, unsure if I should confide in this stranger. But there was something about him, a quiet wisdom, a sense of understanding, that made me want to open up. I told him everything: the sabotage, the betrayal, the ruined reputation, the despair. I poured out my heart, the words tumbling out in a rush, years of pain and frustration finally finding an outlet. He listened patiently, his expression sympathetic. When I was finished, he nodded slowly. "A terrible thing," he said, his voice low. "A great injustice." He paused, then looked at me, his eyes filled with a quiet intensity. "But it is not the end, Julian. It is a beginning." I looked at him, skeptical. "A beginning? What are you talking about? My career is over. I'm a joke." He smiled, a knowing glint in his eyes. "Your career is not over, Julian. It is merely on pause. And as for being a joke, well, perhaps this is an opportunity. An opportunity to learn, to grow, to come back stronger than before. He gestured to the empty table in front of me. "Sit down," he said. "Let's talk." And so we did. We talked for hours about food, about passion, about life. He told me about his own journey, his struggles, his triumphs, his philosophy of cooking. He spoke of the importance of integrity, of staying true to oneself, of never giving up on one's dreams. He reminded me of the joy of cooking, the simple pleasure of creating something delicious, something that brought happiness to others. His name was Antoine, and he was, as I later discovered, a legend in the culinary world. A retired Michelin-starred chef. He saw something in me, a spark of talent, a flicker of passion, that I had almost extinguished myself, and he offered me something I desperately needed: guidance, support, and a renewed sense of hope. "You have a gift, Julian," he said, his voice firm. "Don't let one bad review, one act of betrayal, take that away from you. Learn from this. Grow from this. Come back stronger. And remember, document everything." Antoine's guidance was invaluable. He wasn't just teaching me recipes. He was teaching me how to think about food, how to approach it with both artistry and precision. He drilled into me the importance of documenting everything, every ingredient, every measurement, every step of the process. "Trust no one, Julian," he'd say with a twinkle in his eye, "and that includes your future self. Write it down, or it never happened." So I did. Every single detail. It felt tedious at times, but I knew he was right. This time, things would be different. This time, I'd have proof. Antoine helped me secure a small, temporary space, a vacant storefront downtown that was perfect for a pop-up restaurant. We called it Flavors, simple and to the point. It wasn't about fancy decor or white tablecloths. It was about the food. Antoine lent me some basic equipment, and I poured all my savings, meager as they were, into sourcing the freshest, highest quality ingredients I could find. My menu was small, carefully curated, showcasing my new culinary philosophy: fresh, local, seasonal. I wasn't trying to recreate the grandeur of the season's bounty. This was something different, something more personal. This was me, unfiltered, unburdened by expectations or the pressure of Michelin stars. This was just food, good food, food made with passion and integrity. The first night was nerve-wracking. I was terrified. What if no one came? What if they remembered the bad review, the atrocious stew? What if I'd lost my touch? But then people started to arrive. Curious locals, food bloggers, even a few familiar faces from my past life, though I tried to keep a low profile. And then they tasted the food. The reactions were amazing. Eyes widening in surprise, murmurs of delight, smiles that stretched from ear to ear. "This is incredible," one woman exclaimed, savoring a bite of my roasted butternut squash risotto. "I haven't tasted anything like this before. The flavors are so vibrant," another customer chimed in. "What's your secret?" I just smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. It wasn't about the praise, not really. It was about the connection, the shared experience of enjoying something delicious, something I had created. Chloe, the food blogger I'd met briefly at the Season's Bounty, was there too. She'd written a few positive things about my food truck ventures, which had helped spread the word about flavors. She approached me, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Julian," she said, her voice sincere. This is extraordinary. It's completely different from what I expected." "Different how?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "It's more refined," she said, "more authentic. It's like you found your voice." I nodded, feeling a surge of pride. I think I have," I admitted. "I'm not trying to be anyone else anymore. This is just me, my food." She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Well, your food is speaking volumes. This is the best thing I've tasted in months." The pop-up was a success. Each night, The lines grew longer, the buzz grew louder. People were talking about flavors, about the chef with the incredible food and the mysterious past. They were talking about me. It wasn't about the Michelin star, not anymore. It was about something more important. It was about rediscovering my passion, my joy, my love for food. It was about proving to myself and to the world that I was more than just a bad review. I was a chef, and I was back. The pop-up was a stepping stone, a proof of concept. But I knew I couldn't stay in that cramped storefront forever. I needed a real restaurant, a place to call my own, a place to truly showcase my vision. And thanks to the success of Flavors, I had the means to make it happen. I found the perfect spot, a charming old building with exposed brick walls and high ceilings, tucked away on a quiet street, just off the beaten path. It was small, intimate, with just enough space for a cozy dining room and a well-equipped kitchen. I called it the Phoenix, a symbol of my own rebirth, my rise from the ashes of my past failures. Antoine, bless his heart, was there every step of the way. He helped me design the menu, a carefully curated selection of dishes that showcased my unique style. Fresh, seasonal, innovative, with a focus on local ingredients and bold flavors. He pushed me to be creative, to experiment, to take risks. "Don't be afraid to break the rules, Julian," he'd say, "but break them with purpose, with intention. Make every dish a statement." I assembled a small, dedicated team, a sous chef with a passion for perfection, a pastry chef with a flair for the dramatic, and a front-of-house manager with a knack for making people feel welcome. We were a team, a family, united by our love of food and our desire to create something special. "Remember, team?" I said during our first pre-service meeting. "This isn't just about the food, it's about the experience. We're creating a symphony of flavors, a culinary journey for our guests. Let's make it unforgettable." The sous chef, a young woman named Emily with a fiery spirit and a meticulous attention to detail, nodded enthusiastically. "We're with you, chef," she said. "Let's make this place legendary." The Phoenix opened its doors to rave reviews. The food was exceptional, the atmosphere intimate and inviting, the service impeccable. Word spread quickly, and soon we were booked solid every night. Food bloggers, including Chloe, flocked to the Phoenix, eager to experience the culinary rebirth of Julian Vance. "Julian," Chloe said, approaching me one evening after the last diners had left, "this place, it's magical. You've created something truly special." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Thank you, Chloe. It means a lot coming from you." She leaned in, her eyes sparkling. "You know," she said, her voice low and playful, "I always knew you had it in you, even after, well, you know." I chuckled, remembering the disastrous Michelin review. "Yeah, well, let's just say I learned a few things along the way." "You certainly did," she said, her smile widening. "And you know what they say? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." "And tastier," I added, earning a playful nudge from her. We stood there for a moment, the silence filled with a comfortable intimacy. I felt a connection with Chloe, a spark of something more. She wasn't just a food blogger anymore. She was a friend, a confidant, well, I wasn't quite sure what yet. But I knew I wanted to find out. The Phoenix was more than just a restaurant. It was a testament to my resilience, my passion, my unwavering belief in myself. It was a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in the darkness. And as I looked around the bustling dining room, the satisfied smiles on the faces of my guests, I knew that I had finally found my place, my purpose, my culinary home. The clatter of silverware and the murmur of happy diners filled the Phoenix. It was a good night, a really good night. The aroma of rosemary and thyme hung heavy in the air, a comforting blanket woven from the dishes I'd poured my heart into. Seeing the smiles on people's faces, hearing their appreciative murmurs, it was like a balm to my soul. It was healing, Chloe was at her usual table by the window, a notebook and pen in hand. She'd become a regular, not just a food blogger, but something more. I liked having her here. Her presence was calming, reassuring. She caught my eye and gave me a small, encouraging smile. I returned it, feeling a warmth spread through me. It was a good night. But there was always a but, wasn't there? Chloe approached me as the dinner rush began to wind down. "Julian," she said, her brow furrowed slightly. "Your food is amazing, truly." "Thank you, Chloe," I replied, wiping my hands on my apron. "That means a lot." "But," she hesitated, "I'm still puzzled by the Michelin review. It just doesn't seem possible. This food, it's on a completely different level." I sighed. The Michelin review. The ghost that haunted me. I'd tried to put it behind me, to focus on the present, on the phoenix, on rebuilding. But it always lingered in the back of my mind, a dark cloud threatening to eclipse the sunshine. "It was a bad night," I said, my voice flat. "Everyone has them." "But it wasn't just a bad dish," she pressed. "The review, it was brutal. It painted a picture of a chef I don't recognize." I shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Reviews are subjective, Chloe. Sometimes they're just wrong." She wasn't buying it. I could see the doubt in her eyes, the unspoken question. What really happened that night? "I've been talking to other bloggers," she said, her voice low. "They're intrigued by your comeback, but they're also confused by the review." I stiffened. "What are they saying?" "They're saying, it's strange," she said, "that your food now, it's completely different, more refined, more authentic. They're wondering if maybe something else happened that night." My heart pounded in my chest. The whispers, they were starting again. But this time, it was different. This time, it wasn't just gossip. This time, there was Chloe. "They're just speculating," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "People love a good story." "Maybe," she said, her eyes searching mine. "But I'm not so sure. I've tasted your food, Julian. I've seen your passion, your dedication. The chef who created this, he's not the chef described in that review." She was right. I knew she was right. But admitting it, it felt like opening a wound, reliving the pain, the humiliation, the betrayal. "I should go," I said, turning away. "I have to check on the kitchen." "Julian," she said, her voice gentle. "I'm just trying to understand. I want to help." I paused, my back to her. "Help?" I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "No one can help me, Chloe. That review, it's a life sentence." I walked away, leaving her standing there, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand her. But I knew one thing. She wasn't going to let this go. And that scared me. I couldn't sleep. Chloe's words echoed in my head, her questions, her doubts, her unwavering belief that something was wrong. She was right, of course. The review was a lie, a fabrication, a weapon used to destroy me. But proving it, that was another story. I tossed and turned, my mind racing. What could I do? How could I prove that I'd been sabotaged, that the review was a lie? It was my word against theirs, and they were powerful, influential. Who would believe me? Then I remembered Antoine's words. Document everything. The notebooks, I'd kept them, hidden away in a box, buried beneath old cookbooks and forgotten mementos. They were a reminder of my past, a symbol of my lost dreams. But maybe they were also the key to my future. I got out of bed, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation. I found the box, my hands trembling as I opened it. There they were, my notebooks, filled with my meticulous notes, my culinary philosophy, my recipes, my life's work. I started to read, my eyes scanning the pages, my mind flashing back to the days when I was creating those dishes, full of passion, full of hope. And then I found it, the seafood symphony recipe. It was there in all its glory, a testament to my skill, my creativity, my dedication. A masterpiece, a far cry from the atrocious stew described in the review. As I read, the truth became clear. It wasn't just about the recipe. It was about the process, the meticulous attention to detail, the precise measurements, the specific techniques. It was about the why behind every ingredient, every step. It was about the story I was trying to tell with my food. The Michelin reviewer hadn't understood my story. He'd tasted a distorted, corrupted version of my creation, a dish sabotaged by malice and envy, and he'd judged me based on that lie. I felt a surge of anger, a burning desire to clear my name, to expose the truth. But I also felt something else. Hope. A fragile, flickering hope, but hope nonetheless. I had proof. I had evidence. I had the truth. The question was, what to do with it? I thought about Chloe. She believed me. She saw the inconsistencies, the discrepancies. She was on my side. Maybe she could help me. Maybe she could be the one to tell my story, to expose the truth to the world. I closed the notebook, my heart pounding with a newfound sense of purpose. It wasn't just about my career anymore. It was about my reputation, my integrity, my passion. It was about reclaiming my life. And I knew, with a certainty that surprised even myself, that I wouldn't rest until I had done just that. Antoine's words echoed in my mind. Subtlety, Julian. Don't come out swinging. Let the truth simmer. Let it seduce the palate. Let it speak for itself. He was right. I couldn't just barge in and scream, "Sabotage!" I needed a plan, a way to reveal the truth without sounding like a bitter, washed-up chef clinging to a long-lost dream. Chloe was key. She believed me. She saw the inconsistencies, and she had a platform. But she needed more than just my word. She needed proof. And I had it. In my notebooks, in my recipes, in the very essence of my culinary philosophy. A private tasting, Chloe suggested, her eyes sparkling. A small group of influential food bloggers, your most loyal customers. It's perfect. You can recreate the seafood symphony, show them what it's supposed to taste like. It was risky, exposing myself again, putting my heart on a plate for the world to judge. But it was also my only chance. It was time to face the music, to reclaim my narrative. I drafted the invitations myself, each word carefully chosen. You are cordially invited to an exclusive tasting at the Phoenix. Join Chef Julian Vance for an evening of culinary exploration, featuring a special presentation of his signature dish, the Seafood Symphony. This intimate gathering will provide a unique opportunity to experience the artistry and passion behind Chef Vance's culinary creations. We eagerly anticipate your presence. It was formal, understated, hinting at a story without revealing too much. I sent out the invitations, a mix of excitement and dread swirling within me. This was it, my moment of truth. The responses were encouraging. Most of the bloggers were intrigued, curious to see what I had up my sleeve. Chloe, of course, was ecstatic. She even offered to help with the arrangements, her enthusiasm contagious. This is going to be epic, Julian, she said, her eyes shining. You're going to blow them away. I smiled, trying to project confidence, even though my stomach was doing somersaults. I hope so, Chloe, I said. I really hope so. The private tasting was a small, intimate affair. Just 10 food bloggers, including Chloe, seated around a beautifully set table in the private dining room at the Phoenix. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, a quiet hum of excitement filling the air. I stood at the head of the table, feeling a familiar mix of nerves and adrenaline. This wasn't just another service. This was a performance, a carefully orchestrated reveal. Good evening, everyone, I began, my voice steady. Thank you for joining me tonight. I've invited you here not just to enjoy a meal, but to share a story with you. A story about passion, about perseverance, and about the power of food. I gestured to the kitchen. Tonight, I will be preparing my signature dish, the Seafood Symphony. But this time, it will be the real Seafood Symphony. I could see the curiosity in their eyes, the unspoken question. What does he mean by that? I led them through the preparation, explaining each step, highlighting the key ingredients, emphasizing the importance of precise execution and the delicate balance of flavors. I talked about the inspiration behind the dish, the memories of my childhood, the connection to the ocean, the symphony of tastes and textures I was trying to create. This isn't just a stew, I explained, my voice filled with passion. It's a story told through flavor, through aroma, through the sheer joy of cooking. It's a story that was almost silenced, but tonight, it will be heard. I could see Chloe's eyes shining with understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the truth I was about to reveal. The other bloggers were captivated, their attention focused on my every move, their senses heightened by the anticipation. The aroma of the Seafood Symphony filled the room, a complex and intoxicating blend of the ocean and spice. It was perfect. Just as I remembered it, just as it was supposed to be. I ladled the stew into bowls, each one a work of art, a testament to my skill and my dedication. The bloggers took their first bites, their eyes widening in surprise, murmurs of delight filling the air. "This is incredible," one blogger whispered. "The flavors, they're so complex, so nuanced. It's like a completely different dish," another added. "Nothing like the one described in the Michelin review." Chloe smiled, her eyes sparkling. "It's a masterpiece, Julian," she said, her voice filled with admiration. "You've outdone yourself." I nodded, feeling a surge of pride. "This is the real Seafood Symphony," I said. "This is the dish I created, the dish that was stolen from me." The tasting was a success. The bloggers were blown away by the Seafood Symphony. Its exquisite flavors a stark contrast to the atrocious dish described in the Michelin review. They were buzzing with excitement, their skepticism replaced by admiration. Now, it was time for the truth. After the tasting, as the bloggers were mingling and discussing the meal, I gathered them around me, Chloe by my side. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I began, my voice steady. "I wanted to share something with you, something that goes beyond the food, something that explains everything." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. "A few months ago," I continued, "my career was almost destroyed by a single Michelin review. I was accused of serving a dish that was an insult to the palate, a culinary travesty. But the dish they tasted, it wasn't my Seafood Symphony. It was a sabotage." The room fell silent, all eyes on me. "I believe," I said, my gaze hardening, "that my sous chef Isabelle sabotaged my dish that night. She added an ingredient that clashed horribly with the flavors, ruining the stew and destroying my reputation." A murmur rippled through the room. Some of the bloggers looked shocked, others skeptical, but Chloe nodded, her expression serious. "It's true," she said, stepping forward. "I've been investigating, and I've found inconsistencies between the dish described in the review and Julian's current cooking. It's like two different chefs entirely." I gestured to the notebooks on the table. "These are my recipes, my notes, my culinary philosophy," I said. They proved that the Seafood Symphony was a masterpiece, a dish I poured my heart and soul into. It was stolen from me, both the recipe and my reputation. I could see the doubt in some of their eyes. Accusing someone of sabotage was a serious matter. But Chloe's support, my documented recipes, and the undeniable difference in the quality of the food spoke for themselves. Just then, Isabelle walked in. She'd heard about the tasting, the buzz, the whispers. She'd come to see what was happening, to try and salvage her own reputation. She froze when she saw me, her face paling. "Isabelle," I said, my voice cold, "we need to talk." She forced a smile, her eyes darting around the room. "Julian," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "What's going on?" "I'm telling the truth," I said. About what you did, about the sabotage, about the ruined review. She scoffed. You're delusional, she said. You're just trying to blame someone else for your own failure. I have proof, I said, holding up my notebooks. These are my recipes, my notes. They show the real seafood symphony, the dish you sabotaged. She laughed, a brittle, nervous sound. Those are just notes, Julian. Anyone could have written them. But they're my notes, I said, my voice rising. They're my ideas, my techniques, my passion, and they prove that you stole my dish, ruined my reputation, and tried to destroy my career. Chloe stepped forward, her voice firm. Isabelle, she said, I've tasted Julian's food, both then and now. It's clear that the dish described in the review was nothing like what he creates. Something happened that night, and I think we all know what it was. Isabelle's face was flushed, her eyes filled with panic. She knew she was cornered. Her lies were unraveling. I didn't do anything, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. It was an accident, a bad batch of seafood, that's all. Chloe's blog post went live that night, a digital bombshell that detonated across the culinary landscape. She titled it simply, yet powerfully, The Michelin Deception. Was Julian Vance sabotaged? And below, in clear, concise prose, she laid out her case. Something doesn't add up. Julian Vance, the chef behind the innovative and exquisite dishes at the Phoenix, is a far cry from the cook described in the infamous Michelin review. The review, which all but destroyed his career, paints a picture of a chef struggling with basic techniques. A chef whose food is an insult to the palate. But my experience and the experience of countless others who have dined at the Phoenix tells a different story. Julian's food is not just good, it's exceptional. It's refined, it's creative, it's authentic. It's the food of a chef at the peak of his powers, not a chef on the verge of collapse. She went on to detail the inconsistencies she'd observed, the whispers of sabotage she'd uncovered, and the stark contrast between the seafood symphony described in the review and the masterpiece I'd presented at the private tasting. She ended with a call to action, urging her readers to question the review, to demand the truth. The internet exploded. Food bloggers, critics, and enthusiasts alike picked up the story, sharing Chloe's post, dissecting the evidence, debating the merits of the Michelin review. #Michelin Deception, #Justice for Julian, and #Seafood Symphonygate became trending hashtags. I always thought that review was fishy, pun intended, one comment read. Julian's food is incredible. I can't believe they trashed him like that. Another chimed in. Isabelle's bistro is overrated. Her food is good, but it's nothing special. Maybe she stole Julian's recipes. The whispers of doubt now turned into outright accusations. I watched it all unfold from my small apartment, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and disbelief. It was happening. The truth was coming out. But it wasn't just Chloe's blog post. I had my own evidence to present. I contacted several journalists, offering them the contents of my notebooks, my recipes, my notes, my culinary philosophy. I also shared the accounts of other kitchen staff from the season's bounty, who had suspected Isabelle's sabotage but were too afraid to speak up at the time. They were ready now, emboldened by Chloe's post and the growing public outcry. The journalists were intrigued. They saw the inconsistencies, the discrepancies, the potential for a major scandal. They started digging, corroborating my story, interviewing the witnesses, examining the evidence. And the more they dug, the more the truth became clear. Julian Vance had been the victim of a calculated act of sabotage, a culinary coup orchestrated by his ambitious sous chef. The fallout was swift and brutal. Isabelle's reputation crumbled overnight. Her restaurant, Isabelle's Bistro, which had once been a popular destination, was now a pariah. Negative reviews flooded online platforms. Customers boycotted her establishment, and the whispers of plagiarism turned into open accusations. I can't believe I ever ate there, one former patron commented online. Her food is bland, unoriginal. She's a fraud. I'm never going back to Isabelle's Bistro, another wrote. She stole Julian's recipes and ruined his career. She doesn't deserve our support. The Michelin Review, the very foundation of Isabelle's success, was officially retracted. The Michelin Guide issued a public apology, acknowledging the discrepancies in the review and admitting their mistake. It was a humiliating blow for the prestigious organization and a massive vindication for me. Isabelle tried to defend herself, issuing a series of denials, claiming that the accusations were baseless and that she was the victim of a smear campaign. But her lies and inconsistencies were exposed, her credibility shattered. The evidence was overwhelming and the public wasn't buying it. "She's just trying to save her own skin," one restaurant patron said to a news reporter outside Isabelle's bistro. "She knows she's been caught." "She should apologize to Julian," another added. "She ruined his life, his career. She needs to pay for what she did." Isabelle's downfall was complete. Her restaurant was boycotted, her reputation destroyed, her career in tatters. The culinary world, which had once embraced her, now shunned her, disgusted by her betrayal and her deceit. The whispers of doubt had turned into a roar of condemnation, and Isabelle, the ambitious sous chef who had stolen my dream, was now facing the consequences of her actions. The news spread like wildfire. Julian Vance was back. Not just back, but vindicated. His name, once synonymous with culinary disaster, was now being whispered with reverence once more. The culinary world, which had so quickly turned its back on me, now welcomed me with open arms. It was surreal. Just months ago, I was scrubbing pots in a greasy spoon diner, a ghost of my former self. Now I was being hailed as a chef of exceptional talent and integrity, a survivor who had overcome adversity and triumphed over injustice. The offers poured in. Investors, restaurant owners, even television networks. Everyone wanted a piece of Julian Vance. It was overwhelming, but in a good way. This time, I was in control. This time, I wouldn't let anyone take advantage of me. With the support of Antoine and Chloe, I carefully considered my options. I wasn't interested in simply recreating the season's bounty. I wanted something new, something that reflected my journey, my growth, my renewed passion for culinary excellence. I found the perfect space, a larger, more modern venue with a state-of-the-art kitchen and a spacious dining room. I called it Symphony of Flavors, a tribute to the dish that had almost destroyed me, but now symbolized my rebirth. It was also a reflection of my culinary philosophy, a harmonious blend of flavors, textures, and techniques, a symphony of culinary artistry. I assembled my team, handpicking each member for their talent, their passion, and their integrity. Emily, my sous chef from the Phoenix pop-up, was by my side, her fiery spirit and meticulous attention to detail an invaluable asset. Antoine, though retired, served as a consultant, his wisdom and guidance a constant source of inspiration. And Chloe was there too, not just as a food blogger, but as a friend, a confidant, a source of unwavering support. The grand opening of Symphony of Flavors was a night to remember. The restaurant was packed, the atmosphere electric with excitement. Food critics raved about the menu, praising my innovative dishes and my commitment to fresh, local ingredients. Julian Vance has not just returned, he has ascended, one review proclaimed. Symphony of Flavors is a culinary masterpiece, a testament to his resilience and his unwavering passion for culinary excellence. This is not just a restaurant. It's an experience, a journey for the senses, a symphony of flavors that will leave you breathless. From the ashes of a ruined reputation, Julian Vance has risen like a phoenix, another critic wrote. Symphony of Flavors is a triumph, a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring magic of food. This is a restaurant that deserves not just one Michelin star, but many. The restaurant was a resounding success. I was back, stronger than before, my passion for cooking burning brighter than ever. But this time, it wasn't about the accolades or the recognition. It was about the joy of creating, the satisfaction of sharing my culinary vision with the world. the connection I felt with my team, my guests, and Chloe. "Chef," Emily said one night after a particularly busy service, her eyes shining with pride. "This is amazing. We're doing it. We're really doing it." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "We are, Emily," I said, "and it's all thanks to you and the rest of the team. You're the real symphony, the heart and soul of this place." She blushed, but her smile radiated pure joy. "We're just glad to be a part of it, Chef," she said. "You've shown us what it means to be a chef, to be passionate, to be real. And that, more than any Michelin star or glowing review, was the greatest reward. I had not only rebuilt my career, I had rebuilt my life. I had found my purpose, my passion, my true north. And I knew with a certainty that came from deep within that this was just the beginning of a new, even more extraordinary chapter in my culinary journey.